I tried to do a video on Reform Judaism, but unfortunately it didn't upload. But my point was that those who say that Reform Judaism is not Judaism, or as I learned the hard way, well, Reform Judaism isn't Judaism. So the reason for that is because Reform Judaism does indeed ignore the Word of God, and they ignore that the Word of God is the Word of God. And actually, it says right in their question, frequently asked questions. I'm on the URJ website, and so if you want to go and see the questions yourself so you don't think I'm making any of this up. And then I also am on FAQs.org, FAQs Judaism, FAQ 10 Reform. And what they say, to begin with them, is the following. Reform differs from the other major movements in that it views the oral and written laws as a product of human hands. Specifically, it views the Torah as divinely inspired, but written in the languages of the time in which it was given. The laws reflect their times, but contain many timeless truths. The Reform movement stresses retention of the key principles of Judaism as it sees them. For details, consult the Reform reading list. As for practice, it strongly recommends individual study of the traditional practices. However, the adherent is free to follow only those practices that increase the sanctity of their relationship to God. Reform also stresses equality between the sexes. So basically, Reform Judaism says you don't have to follow all 613 mitzvot. You just have to pick and choose which ones you want to follow. And in terms of what the URJ says about, well, let's go first to, let's see, questions about choosing the covenant, that is, following Torah and all. I've been in the process of rediscovering Judaism for several years now. As part of that process, I am struggling with how to decide what to follow and what not to follow, whether or not to keep kosher, how to observe Shabbat are important pieces of my struggle. How do you justify not doing some and doing others? And the answer is a long answer, but the basic crux of it is, at the beginning, actually, the crux of it okay, the crux of it, I think, might actually be the whole answer. So I'm just going to go to the section on orthodoxy because that's the one that I wanted to highlight. And okay, how do Orthodox and Reform practices differ? And let's see. And I'm just going to read an excerpt, the one I wanted to highlight. For Orthodox Jews, the Hebrew Scriptures is a divinely altered text, and therefore every commandment contained therein must be obeyed. The Mishnah and Talmud are considered to have virtually the same status and are called oral Torah. Reform Jews, however, understand the text to have been written by human beings, our ancestors. In my personal opinion, says the person who wrote this, by the way, but the fact that it's published on the official Reform Judaism website should tell you that Reform Judaism holds to this. The texts are certainly divinely inspired and reflect our ancestors' best understanding of God and their covenant with God, as well as their view of God's will, but that is not the same as being divinely authored. Hence, Reform Jews read the text through the spectacles not only of a religious person but those of a scholar as well. Some institutions are considered to be a product of the cultural milieu and societal norms of the ancient Near East when the Hebrew scriptures were written down and do not speak to our lives today. In addition, Reformed Jews do not ascribe to the Mishnah and Talmud the same authority which Orthodox Jews do. While the Talmud and law codes guide the lives of Orthodox Jews, it is more accurate to say that they inform the lives of Reformed Jews. So she's basically saying that the Torah is not divine, that it was basically, as Dr. Weiss once flippantly said about both the first part of Tanakh and the second part of Tanakh, the second part of Tanakh being the Brit Kadasha, he said that the Bible is basically man's response to experiencing God with some nuances. And that's basically what this person is saying here. And another answer in that same question is, and I'm reading an excerpt from this answer. For Reform, the Torah is the God-inspired attempt by Hebrews, Israelites, Jews to understand their surroundings and their relationship with God. While it is a holy document, the Torah is rooted in the past, and we can even sometimes discern the circumstances under which certain sections are written down. Reform thus sees developments in Judaism not just through the biblical period but thereafter as well. And he goes on and on and on. And also he says earlier in the same thing, the fundamental difference is the approach to Torah and the implications of that approach. The Orthodox believe that it comes directly from God and so cannot be changed. All we can do is understand. They wouldn't even say interpret, and the right to do so has devolved upon the rabbis, descendants of the Pharisees who probably began teaching during the Babylonian exile. And anyway, he says, all we can do is understand. They wouldn't even say interpret it. And he deliberately skips over that there is a movement in Judaism called Karaite Judaism, which is that you are supposed to interpret the scriptures based on the scriptures and in context and in the original language. So Reform Judaism is also very disingenuous about Judaism in general. And even one of the things, and you can see this on the FAQs website mostly, is they allow basically every belief, even agnosticism and atheism in Reform Judaism, but they do not allow a belief in Jesus. And even one specific question said, and I'm reading this right from, let's see. Okay. When asked if a Jewish lady could be a bridesmaid at a Christian wedding, the answer was, the young lady may attend as a bridesmaid, but she may not kneel or do anything which may be considered as participation in a Christian worship service. So even if she was kneeling and praying to God, but not in a Christian way, but she was still kneeling out of respect anyway, and she was using that time to pray to God in her way, she couldn't do it. And so Reform Judaism really is not tolerant as they claim to be. And as I said, Reform Judaism does not take the word of God seriously. So Reform Judaism can be called watered down Judaism, revisionist Judaism, anything but Jesus Judaism, and any other kind of Judaism but Judaism. Well, take care and Shabbat Shalom, and I'll put the links there, and I will also link to my blog entry which describes this more.